On the business side of running the network, we've been talking about automation for 20 years using services or software like professional services automation software as an example, or PSA. But the ability to automate has changed dramatically. So I kind of look at it like you have this new version or 2.0 of automation that's going to look way different than kind of the version 1 that's from your traditional PSA software. And so what I wanted to cover quickly is just how can I adopt AI in my business, not just in the network like what you're doing with Checkpoint. Well, to adopt it in the network, you just buy checkpoints, right? But to adopt it in your business, that requires just a little bit different functionality. And we really broke it down into 3 steps. Like the first one is we have to connect all your fragmented systems together. Yep. And you and I were together last week at a trade show, and it was the CEO of a VAR talking about how they were, using pen and paper to generate quotes. And really, what we have to do is we have to figure out how do we start connecting the PSA with the CRM, with the ITSM, and really, if there's no digital connectivity, you really can't build AI on top of that.
Right. Right.
There's no AI for pen and paper yet.
No.
I'm going to probably do that, but it doesn't exist at this point. So the step 1 kind of is this connectivity problem. And then the second thing that you want to think about how to do is how can I start to take my processes and build an all digital workflow with it? And what you're seeing here is you're actually seeing a digital workflow for a sales process at a VAR. So if you think about what you do as the human, is you have essentially a discovery process with your customer where you go and collect information about how am I going to be providing security, or what's the network and the size of the building where I'm going to be providing it. Then you go away and you build a bill of materials by hand typically. And you might even build it in a spreadsheet or in somebody else's tool. And then you go through the pricing and the costing process all the way to get to the point where I'm spitting out essentially a proposal to my customer. And so what you have to do is get that process essentially digitized. And then once you can digitize that process, now you can look for places to plug in automation. And this is where stuff gets really exciting.
Yeah.
And I'm actually going to demo, for example, the bill of materials creation is one of the things that take a lot of time for an engineer. And actually what I'm going to demo today, because I think that's a cool thing that I think is going to change dramatically.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe I'm opening a can of worms now, but when we think about specifically even just the bill of material process for our partners and what they're doing, like today, if we think about the pen and paper, like how long of a time does it take to go from start to finish with what they're dealing with?
Well, so if you think about this, as the answer is, it depends on the engineer and the customer and the complexity of the project. Obviously, the more complex, the longer it takes, but it can take several days to weeks.
Yeah.
If you think about all the things that you do with a customer. What's interesting about this topic is that we literally had this debate internally when we were a VAR. We had this debate for 5 years internally. And the debate was, are we really building bills of materials that are different every time, or are they really close to each other? And if they're close to each other, could we build some automation so that this could be auto-generated, at least to like 80 or 90%?
Yeah.
And if you played around with ChatGPT and you thought about, if I could learn from all the previous designs that we created as a company, and then I could prompt my database, if you will, or my system of learning, and with a few inputs like you would see on a ChatGPT type functionality, could it spit out a bill of materials for me? Right. And that's actually what I'm going to demo. But the debate we had internally was we had a camp internally that said you can't do that, and then we had the camp internally that said no, I think we can, and we ultimately did.
Right.
But if you think about it, so there's a lot of these types of processes that when you talk to someone, they're going to say, oh, we're unique, it's impossible to do that. And my response is, well, we're building self-driving cars. So
Nothing's
that's a way more complicated problem to solve than I'm building an equipment list to put in a building.
That's
So,
right.
so we probably can solve that. But I think there's a lot of other opportunities as well, like automating prices on quotes, and just looking at the history and how you price something in the past and then spitting that out. But I think what's important to understand from an operational perspective is just where AI is heading if we don't do this. Okay, and so what I mean is, if you don't do this as a VAR and MSP, you're going to be competing against another one who is,
Right.
and that's the actual danger. And so you got to understand kind of where things are headed. And in the industry, what's happening is we've gone from kind of like static inputs already to very dynamic inputs, conversational type of inputs. And I no longer have to just write in text. I'm already able to consume data through different sources, whether it's images or whatever else. And I think that's interesting. And the other thing is that the idea behind what AI is heading is it's this concept of an agent that's very that's directionally focused. Hey, go give me 5 new prospects per day in this specific industry and add them into my CRM. Like that's where we're headed with the whole kind of agent-based concept of AI.
Yeah.
So the way that this looks from a process perspective, and if you think about this, the way that computers have worked for like 30 years, is it's software, and so it's somewhat automated, but it's really kind of dumb. Like I have to tell it on a page to like do this, do that, and it's really me interacting with the computer pressing a button.
Yeah.
And the kind of huge shift, if you've seen Copilot and some of these other things that Microsoft has come out with, is you're literally going to be able to say, hey, go do these things. And then the software will actually run through that process for you. And then you're essentially just dealing with the result.
That's right. Based on the data, you're able to remove some of that human interaction because it's predicting what you would do anyways and cutting out that need in the middle.
100%. It's a little bit scary, but there's actually a tremendous amount of opportunity. So I'm going to talk about specific tools that MSPs can use today, and then I'm actually going to do a demo just to show you. So there are tools that are already out there that you can use to automate specific things like prospecting, ChatSpot, proposal writing. Obviously, ChatGPT is an option for there, and Jasper is another one. Bill of materials automation, and I'm going to show you that. That's our software Central Office that I'll demo. There's also a lot of really cool software out there that's able to do things like read service tickets from your PSA, organize those based on what the customer is saying, and then also even predict the outcome. So we actually had another CEO that's supposed to join us today from 9Minds, and they're an AI startup that just launched a product 2 weeks ago that you and I both saw a demo of recently. And they're able to do all sorts of things around automating what's happening in your service desk. And so PIA is one, Thread is another one, and then 9Minds are systems that are literally already there. 9Minds, I'll highlight, has a free version of their software. Right. And so you can literally download it, or not download it, connect it to your service desk, create a free account, and then start using it right away. And so there's a lot of like really cool things that are happening right now. But what I would forecast is that 2024 is going to be a year where you're going to see all sorts of new tools get launched that are doing everything from customer experience to threat management to all sorts of stuff.